Right, it's week 14 on ShrimpNet, and it's been a tricky week in Shrimp World on the field, but off the field we continue to plough on. Joining us from the corridors of power in the loft room of the Bazoomer that no mere mortals can grace, it's, as usual, James Wakefield. Welcome, James.
Hi, Freez.
And also the hastily assembled Media Dream Team, or is it Double Trouble? Who knows? Depending on how they fare, it's a warm welcome to Media Manager and his newly appointed assistant, Matt Smith, and Jack Taylor. No jokes about Jack Taylor. Welcome, Matt. Welcome, Jack.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good evening.
So we're starting, as usual, discussing the games that have just passed in the past week. Last Saturday at Grimsby, the absolute fantastic start, Joel. Couldn't a minute and 10 seconds, bang, in we go. And then we sat back and Grimsby looked like world beaters for about 60 minutes. Didn't look like they were ever going to score. Smudge then dropped one on somebody's head and they put the rebound in. We went to pieces for 10 minutes and then got back in it, but it wasn't to be. Discuss.
Yeah, I disagree that they didn't look like they were ever going to score. I thought they looked quite threatening. I thought I think they made 6 changes to the starting lineup, and I guess you have that kind of. I know it's an interim manager, but there's a bit of a bounce of players who maybe feel they were left out and they've got a bit of a point to prove. And I think you saw that in their performance. I know we can have had the early goal and that can shock a team sometimes, but you got to say fair play to Grimsby. They obviously had a plan in mind for how they wanted to deal with us and how they wanted to kind of restrict us. And despite us getting an early goal, they just stuck to that plan. I thought they pressed quite well. I thought
Pressed very well.
Yeah, they pressed very well. Yeah, and I thought what they did, which was quite clever, is that I thought they put a lot of pressure on Joel Senior. I thought they stopped him being able to advance because he's a very, very good threat that we've got carrying the ball out from the back. It was interesting actually that they could have done that after a week after Jacob said on the podcast about how good Joel Senior is at dribbling the ball. Although I'm pretty sure they've probably done that off the back of their own analysts rather than necessarily listen to this podcast. But yeah, I thought you got to say fair play. It was a good game.
I'd like to think you're right.
I'd like to think. I can't remember who their interim manager is, but I'd like to think they're all listening to us. But no, yeah. So right, they came with a good plan to how to nullify us. They executed it well. They obviously had quite a lot of fight about them. I think maybe due to the circumstances, and yeah, you got to say fair play. They've played a good game. I thought in the first half, actually, despite the fact that they were kind of coming onto us quite a lot and causing a bit of trouble, I thought it was quite easy for us to get in behind them. They were pressing quite high, but then on the flip side, when we got a ball in behind and found a bit of space, we were really cutting through them. I think there were moments where we maybe just didn't quite find that final pass, but we were struggling defensively. Obviously, Derek's made the half-time substitutions to try and deal with that kind of aerial threat that Grimsby were giving us, because I think there were a few set pieces on that first half where I was just like, oh my god, like somebody's just going to wander into space. But so I get why he's made those changes. But as happens in football, sometimes slightly random goals happen and change the momentum of the game. I think that's kind of what's happened at the start of the half. And Grimsby, they've taken that momentum well. They've kind of raced into that lead. They've extended it and made it put a third goal in there. I think that from that point, it made it quite comfortable for them to control the game. We've had a bit of a go late on, and we've had another decent chance after we'd scored. It was a good move for the goal, by the way. Some great work by Eli King, putting Slow in and then cutting across for JJ to turn in. That was really good. And then we've had another chance late on. I think that was for King. So we've come up with a bit in the end, but I think, just to echo what kind of Derek said in his post-match interview, I think they were worthy winners. They were very up for it. And the day they came there, they turned up with a plan. They executed it really well. So sometimes you just have to hold your hat up, take your hat off and say, they played really well. It sounded like that was the best they played in quite a long time. So it is what it is. You're gonna have those days, and you got to move on, haven't you?
I think we've mentioned it before that maybe there is something to I'm not saying new manager bounce, but different manager bounce. It was always going to be a tricky fixture, but coming to you, James, they played exactly as we thought they would. But looking at the stats at half time, I think it was something like 62-38 aerial battles they'd won. percentage-wise, and then second balls they were winning very, very similar numbers. You can see why he brought Big Faz and Jan on, but if it works, he's a genius. When he doesn't, he's an idiot. There's no down the middle, is there, James?
No, absolutely. It's all about outcomes, isn't it? If you get the right outcome, then you're an absolute world beater, and if you're not, then you're a fool. I'm glad that you talked about stats there, though, Freeze, because it was a 3-2 game. It was a 3-2 game in scoreline. It was a 3-2 game in XG, and I thought that it's good to hear, like, occasionally any manager, including Derek, coming out and going, "Yeah, we were beaten, and it was the right result." But we weren't like out of sight, and we weren't as out of sight as it might have appeared from people watching a pitch side. I think it was something like 2.8 to 1.9 or 2.8 to 2.1 XG. And as much as that's not a popular topic for some people, we did create chances. We created good chances, and the scoreline was about right. So it's one of those things. Grimsby got their tactics right on the day. As Joel said, it was probably one of their best performances for a while. They're playing at home on a dank November day. It's not fun going to Grimsby in the summer, let alone in November. And so they won the game 3-2, and they deserved to win the game 3-2, but no more than that. It was a 3-2 game.
I come to you now, Matt. It was not a dissimilar pitch to the Barrow evening, and that didn't seem to suit us. Watching it, I was thinking, there was perhaps 2 or 3 occasions where I thought maybe Jacob and Joel Senior and possibly a couple of other players needed to change the studs because they were just falling over all the time. Isn't an excuse. It's just they were turning us and they played the conditions better, didn't they?
Yeah, I think we're just getting towards that time of year now, aren't we? Where, again, no excuse, but conditions will prove a little bit tricky. I think the way we started the game, when you look in recent weeks and months of how clinical and ruthless we've been, we go 1-0 up inside the first minute. I think certainly I was thinking, hold on a minute, this could be, we're on our game today. This could be, something else. And then, fair play to Grimsby. I think it's fair to say, it was a big occasion for them in the sense of, I'm not gonna say new manager bounce, but they got something to prove. I think it's fair to say, and I think the players rose to it. I think that the supporters rose to it. Smithy, I think, deserves a mention for the 2. I think it was 1 or 2 wonder saves in the first half to keep them at bay. Really good saves. And then they come out second half, and it's just a really clinical 15 minutes where, in that 15 minutes, they look a real threat going forwards. And then, JJ gets the late, what proved to be a consolation. But I think, from then until the end of the game, there was only one team in it, and that was us. And, massive chance from Eli King near the end where really is one-on-one, bit of an angle, forces the keeper into the save with his legs. But on another day, that goes in. We take a point, and we're relatively pleased with how the afternoon's gone. So, yeah, it's one of them where you never like to lose a game, but you take your hats off to him. It meant a lot to him to get that result, and we just kind of take what we can from it, look to learn from it, and move onwards.
And I think it's interesting that you mentioned they had that sort of like 15-minute purple patch, because it wasn't that long ago we were doing exactly the same thing to Wimbledon, where they'd completely and utterly outfought and outthought us for just about the entire first half, and we come out and for the first 15 minutes of the second half there blitzed them and found ourselves 3-0 up, with most of us stood in the halo terrace going, how did that happen? And I suppose Grimsby were probably thinking the same, Jack.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, at the start of the second half, obviously, because we switched sides before kickoff, I was down in front of the Grimsby fans at half time, and I was hovering around, and I mean, the atmosphere in the stand wasn't really fantastic. They weren't particularly pleased with the first half performance, but I mean, I don't think they played too bad in the first half. I don't think it was necessary that we dominated them. I mean, obviously we got the goal very early doors, and then they came back at us really well compared to some of the sides who we've gone up against this season. Like we say, Smithy made some fantastic saves, and I think it's a bit unfair really to sort of have a go at him for his performance just for a few mistakes maybe that he made. But I mean, that's just the nature of being a goalkeeper, I suppose. But when the second half started, they came back out. They carried on with the sort of energy that they had in the first half. And then once they got that equaliser, the mood sort of shifted. And the fans for Grimsby, I think, were really great as well, really got behind the team the second they got the equaliser. And then, like you say, similar to when we played Wimbledon and we had that sort of mad spell where we ended up grabbing those goals. They grabbed the same. They went 3-1 up, and at 3-1, I then thought this scoreline doesn't necessarily reflect how the game's gone. I don't know if we deserve to be 3-1 down now, but we were. And then late, like we say, we fought back, and I think, like James says, 3-2 seemed a fair scoreline for the game. It would have been nice to grab the winner, but when you're on a pitch like that after playing 90 minutes of football and you've got tired legs and you've got a lot of Grimsby fans who aren't necessarily particularly happy with how the season's gone so far, they're always going to be in there digging it out and trying to stick it out for the win.
And I think looking at it overall, trying to take some positive from it, in the fact that it didn't really do us any harm. We're still in the sort of playoff places, and also we're still, because we're not blasting teams out of it every week, we're still under the radar, James, and you'll be happy with that, and I know we are, in the fact that as long as we can keep out of the press and not have people going, oh, hang on, Morecambe look like they're aside, it does us some good, because the way I look at it is teams will not come to the Bazuma and sit back and try and grab something. They'll come and have a go because they'll think we're crap. And also away teams will like Grimsby. We did. Joel's right. We did get in behind them, but perhaps the final pass wasn't there. So we've had some good ding-dong games, and long may that continue, James.
Yeah, absolutely. The longer we can stay under the radar, the better. And we're helped slightly by the fact that I think our season-long data is not particularly flattering. But if you look then at our chance creation over recent games, it's got so much better. And I also have a weird theory that the way that Derek sets up defences and the number of sort of last-ditch blocks that players make, I think that slightly undermines some of the data as well. But ultimately, we are still flying under the radar. We're still nicely positioned with a game in hand. And we want to stay there until the last possible moment. We want to be that horse that just sits on the shoulder of all the ones that are leading and the ones that everybody's watching and slapping each other, and then make a charge.
So Swindon away, last game of the season.
Oh, maybe slightly before that. Maybe a little tiny.
Forest Green at home.
Yeah, we'll take that. It's a long old season though, and you know, with a small squad, we've got to keep the players fit, and that's part down to how they're managed, but also down to pure chance and luck. I think if we've got a fit squad come the last 10 games of the season, we'll be there or thereabouts. That's exactly where we want to be.
So moving on to last night's fun and games at Bloomfield Road. My thoughts on it are, as always, it's the Tim Pot Cup. I'm happy to discuss it, but if we lose all three, it doesn't really bother me. We've as we discussed last week, we've had a fairly good run in this and got to the Northern final and got beat by all people, Grimsby, a few years ago, but not really qualified beyond the group stages since they introduced the under-21s, which I think is I won't go into that. My opinion on that's not repeatable. But a difficult game last night. They had quite a few players desperate to impress, and they played pretty well. We struggled a little bit. I can see why Derek played the team he did. And obviously we were missing sort of a blunt force up front with that Michael Mellon, Joe.
Yeah, I think I know they made quite a few changes, Blackpool, but ultimately they were bringing Jensen Weir into the midfield, and we know how good a player he is. And I think John Gabriel, the lad they had wing back, he was just coming into the side. He usually be a pretty regular player, but he's coming back from injury, so you've kind of got that bit of mix. You've got some really good quality players in there. So I mean, they're funny games, aren't they? They just don't have the same atmosphere and tempo, even when it's not the under-21 side and it's two EFL sides. You just don't quite have that same tempo and urgency about the game, and I think that's just the nature of the competition. I think ultimately, like you've kind of alluded to, the introduction of the under-21 sides has ultimately led to the point where people are really just not bothered about it, which is a shame, because going back, this is quite a few years now, obviously, to that run we've had in our first season in the Football League, I think it was. There were some really good runs in the tournament. I remember having there been some really exciting games, and it's become pretty diluted now and pretty stale as a competition, which is a shame, because it's a good opportunity to get to Wembley for League One and League Two clubs. But moving on from that and onto the game itself, it was just, I thought there were some aspects of our play which were really pretty decent, to be honest. I thought,
we were neat and tidy at times.
I thought we progressed the ball quite well up until around their final third, then just maybe like that final pass a bit. I thought we pressed really, really well at times, and we caused them a lot of trouble when they were trying to build out from the back. But when we won the ball back, again, it was a bit of an issue of just being a bit quicker and a bit more clinical with that kind of final ball. And I think on the flip side, they've had a couple of really clinical moments at the other end. In large part thanks to the striker Beasley, who's, especially for that first one, that's a seriously good finish on the volley. And it's frustrating that we've not quite been able to. But we've done quite a lot. I think we've done a fair amount of decent work in that game in terms of building up, in terms of pressing. But we've maybe not just kind of had that speed and clinicalness in the final third that we've had in recent weeks. And I think it's interesting that James, just kind of building the point that James made about the underlying numbers. I think when you're evaluating these things, I think you look at the numbers, but then you also, to really get stuck into it, you've got to look at the eye test. And I think, say last season, when our numbers weren't great last season, I think you watched this as a side, you could kind of see it. It was a struggle last season. We weren't able to build a team in the way that we, Derek and Greg weren't able to build the team the way they wanted to, just because we've got a lot of players hanging over from the previous manager, and it restricts how they can use the budget. And it was difficult, But this season, it's more to their mold, and I think we're around mid-table-ish, I think, for a lot of our underlying numbers. But I think they do maybe miss a little bit of the story in that I think we are doing quite a lot of things right. We're pressing well. We've got some good approach play. It's just maybe sometimes a little bit that final third stuff. We're getting into the good areas, not just having that clinical final pass. So I think when I look at us as a side, we're definitely getting there. There's a lot I think there is to be positive about, but it's just about kind of finishing off those final steps, really. And I think it's great to see the team spirit already. I know our little kind of winning runs come to an end, but I'm sure the team will bounce back. And just to jump on another thing, now we've got a Burnley fan on the podcast. Of course, I think James mentioned that the whole kind of conceding a lot of chances, but they're all quite low quality chances, so it sometimes looks a bit funny with the numbers. That of course was kind of Sean Dyche's signature thing at Burnley. So nice little kind of comparison between us and proper Sean Dyche Burnley and all of this Vincent Kompany nonsense.
Yeah, fancy trying to play football at Turf Moor. Anyway, I'll come to you, James, now. It's safe to say, and I am being completely sarcastic here, that fixture last night did fail to capture the Blackpool public's attention, didn't it? And that's been really the case with most teams since the under-21s came into it.
Yeah, it did. I was correctly reminded by Derek a few weeks ago just that there is a real financial incentive to do well in the Papa John's. Really? I can't believe it's not Butter Trophy or whatever it's called. But as a football spectacle, it is now in a difficult place. To be fair, we took 200 down now, which is really decent. Yeah. For Tuesday night. I can't really comment much beyond that because, as you well know, on Tuesday nights I run around in full kit, and that's exactly what I was doing last night. So I didn't even have the benefit of looking at the stats because they don't even report the stats on Papa John's games. But it sounds like we again created chances though, which is frankly all you can expect and hope to do against a team that's got a budget the size of Blackpool that is in the league above with that fan base. And as long as we're creating chances against good, bad, indifferent opposition, then we're always in with the shout.
And looking at it in plain terms, there's been a little bit of the usual sort of fan backlash, Matt, which I always try and mention. A couple of people having a go at Jordan Slew, why did we even sign him again, etc., etc. And people quite rightly complaining they'd paid the money and didn't expect to see the show that they did. And I kind of get that, but then again, they were in the Championship last year and they brought Critchley back in and they've given him a slightly larger budget. So it was always going to be a difficult ask, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, you look at the squad that they've got and the players that play like Beasley. I mean, he had a cracking game. Gabriel coming back in, like Joel said. And to be fair, they had a couple of youngsters on the bench that came on. But I was speaking to former media employees, Harry Lyons and Matt Rushton, after the game, and they were singing the praises of the youngsters in the sense of they might not have had too much in terms of game time, but they're very well thought of. So I think when you look at players like that and players that we've had that have come up in a similar, capacity, the likes of Adam Mayer, we could have faced someone last season, for example, they might have seen a name on the bench like Adam Mayer and thought, oh, okay, well, unheard of. What kind of threat will he pose? And they come on and they do a job, and that's exactly what Adam did last season. And I think players with squads and clubs with big squads, I think they sometimes can use that to their advantage in this kind of competition. So yeah, I mean, you look at the squad that they do have, and no surprise with the squad depth that they do heavily rotate things around. But that's not to say that when they are bringing those youngsters through that, we can't exactly, and other clubs can't underestimate the power and the quality that they can bring to those sides.
And when we come down to it, Jack, I've made my position fairly clear on it. That it didn't really bother me, the defeat. Yes, it would have been nice to get a draw and maybe go through, but then if you get drawn to somebody, crap away, it's like James has been usurped by his missus there, and she's typing. Are you typing something there? I agree wholeheartedly. More investment. Oh, good effort. I like that. Yeah, that's
sorry about that. She won't go out to the shed, and the painting stuff is in the shed, and the bar, we're painting the bar, and so I had to basically be replaced by my wife whilst I run to get the painting stuff from the shed. So apologies.
That was impressive. She won't go out to the shed. Is the spiders in the shed? Is that what it is?
There's big spiders. It's wet and it's cold. It's miserable at the moment, so she just wouldn't go out to the shed. So I had to go and do it instead.
Well, it makes a change from panning down to Jacob Beddoes' dog and then seeing that his girlfriend's put the Christmas tree up, doesn't it? So, and it's nice to see that none of you have got bloody Christmas decorations up. I was going to panic if we had, but anyway, sorry, Jack. We'll come back to you now. It's for me, the competition's been devalued, but obviously it is a money spinner, so it would have been nice to get through, but it is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, I think for the fans, the sort of magic of what the tournament is has kind of changed since the introduction of the Premier League under-21s team. But on the pitch, ultimately, you've got 11 footballers, and I think footballers are all professional footballers because they share that sort of competitive drive and competitive spirit, and they're going to want to win the match no matter what, no matter who you play on that pitch. And like you say, from the club's point of view, it's great, the financial incentive to win these games, and especially a club in our position. The extra money goes a long way and it's really important to us. But I don't think the way that some fans might see these games really has the same impact on the players. Because at the end of the day, if they're a player who's been given an opportunity in this tournament, they're going to be fighting even harder. And like we were saying, I mean, if Blackpool can have players like Jensen Weir, who when we were back in League One was starting for us and was one of our key players, if they have a squad depth where they can play him as someone who's coming in and that's his chance, and he's going to be really hungry to perform. It's a tough place to go, and it's tough to go to Blackpool and face a side like that. But like you say, I mean, while some of the fans might have become slightly disenchanted with the idea of the tournament, I don't think that necessarily applies to the players from both sides.
Yeah, you're probably right, because it's simple. If we look back at last year, and Adam Mayer made his debut at Harrogate in the same competition, and look where he is now. So it just goes to prove that there is some merit in actually, giving people the chance. So we move on. We've no game this Saturday, so I'm going to put you all on the spot here. The fact that you've got a chance to spend time with your family, or sit and watch football, or do something alternative, because we'd normally be at home. So I'm putting you on the spot. Joel, what are you doing with wasting your time at 3:00 on Saturday afternoon?
Ooh, good question. I'm pretty sure I'm going to be doing a bit of Christmas shopping. Which is
he said that word. He said that word again.
Well, you know what? Life's busy. You got to get it done early. It's organisation, and I don't want to go. I don't want to be stressed at the end of December. I want to have a nice, relaxed time.
Very sweet of you. Very sweet of you. I need socks. Thanks very much.
But yeah, no, there's that. That going on holiday the day after, so it'll be good. It'll be a nice little break from the football, a nice little break from the heart palpitations.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, we'll all be glued to England-Malta on Friday night, obviously, won't we, James? So, that gets the football out of the way. What are you going to be doing?
We're getting a dog. So, we've held off on this for a long time, but some really good friends have got an absolutely beautiful dog, and they're moving to New Zealand. The process of getting a dog into New Zealand is so distressing for the dog that they just can't do it to her. And so they've basically said, well, you've looked after her a few times. Would you like her? And so I put the girl tonight. She's arriving on Friday. So the weekend is all about integrating the dog and making her part of the family, which is actually quite exciting.
Oh, that's lovely. That's a bit harsh. Having a dog they don't like until they have to move to New Zealand to get away from it.
We won't tell her that. I don't think she understands. So we'll be fine.
What sort of dog is it?
She's a half golden retriever, half spaniel. So she's an absolutely adorable thing. And
what mental?
Yeah. Sorry.
Spaniels
no,
Spaniels are absolutely mental.
Retrievers are a bit more chilled, though, aren't they?
They are.
My grandma had a retriever, and he was always a really relaxed dog. So, yeah. Anyway, she stayed with us a couple of times. She's absolutely lovely.
Is that what you used to call your granddad, a retriever? Right. So go on then, Matt. Is this precious family time? Because obviously, during the season, obviously you're busy, probably 20 hours a day for 9 months, are you?
Pretty much, yeah. No, that's exactly it. Freeze, family time. My dad lives over in Knott End, and my stepsister and stepbrother are both home from their respective unis. So we're going to go over early, have some breakfast in the local cafe, and undoubtedly try and persuade them to put Soccer Saturday on, because I never get the luxury of watching Soccer Saturday, even though the international break's on. So I'll report back on how successful I am on that front. Probably not very, I'm estimating, but just family time on Saturday and Sunday, just chilling. I think, just relaxing.
Sausage and egg butty with brown sauce. Thanks very much, Jack. Jack, what about you?
Well, I mean, Matt, as a fantastic boss, came out the other day and said, "You know what? Let's just crack down this week. We'll get all the work done by close of play on Thursday. We'll have a long weekend." So, I mean, I'm going to be doing a lot of chilling out, to be honest.
Fair play.
I might just take a bit of a football break. I mean, I love football. Don't get me wrong, but sometimes it's kind of nice to have the weekend to relax.
Well, bizarrely, I always think on the back of 2 defeats, it's good to have a bit of a break, and because you can sort of press reset. So, and also I will mention there's an Oktoberfest on at the bar at the Mazuma, which they were offering tickets last night at half price, but it looks like a good deal. And I know I've got loads of mates going to that who listen to this, and unfortunately I've got friends coming from the north of Scotland. They're coming from an hour north of Inverness, and they're driving it all in a day. Oh, what are you drinking there? Weiss beer. Oh, nice. Well, they've got Warsteiner. They've got Warsteiner on, and they've got sauerkraut and bratwurst, etc., etc. So if you're at a loose end on Saturday night, that's there. So I've done my advertising for that, but. Obviously, no dates for the crew gamers yet. No dates for the Crawley gamers yet. But we have actually got a home game coming up at the end of November, Newport on a Tuesday night, which we will mention in passing, because the simple fact is, at Newport, the last time we played them was in the FA Cup when we were in a division above, and Aaron Wildig scored, and now Aaron Wildig's playing for them, but he's injured. And we've got a bit of history with Newport. It should be a bit spicy, Joel.
Yeah, of course, Aaron Wildig's injured. He's not playing under Derek. Of course, he's injured. But that'll be fun to. Well, I didn't realize. I forgot it was at the end of November. I thought it was sometime in December. So thanks for reminding me. But yeah, yeah. But no, that'll be that. Again, that's a fixture with a good bit of history now. I like to think that hopefully it's not feeling as sore as it was a few years ago after the initial playoff final defeat. I mean, you do have to feel for Newport a bit. It was 2 playoff finals in a row that they lost, I think, wasn't it? Or what?
Yeah, I was gutted when John O'Sullivan went down. I was gutted, for him, honest.
Yeah, I was devastated for them too. But I think. So yeah, I mean, if it had been us in that situation, I think as well. I think in both games they were a little bit unfortunate. Obviously, I think throughout the season we deserved the luck to get promoted, but maybe in that individual game there was a couple of things that went our way, but also a lot of bodies on the line and some really, really quite heroic defending throughout the whole game, I thought. And ultimately, when you come to those crunch games, I think it's a little bit more about that. And that's what we managed to do well in that crunch game. But yeah, be a bit of a it's a fixture with a bit of weight behind it. I've watched Newport already this season. They're quite counter-attacking. They're quite interesting to watch as a team. They've been playing a diamond. Wilding's been at the tip of that diamond. They've got some pacey players who can kind of go running behind. They've got a bit of hold. They've got I think it's Bogle, isn't it? The hold up the guy.
Oh, my Bogle, yeah.
Yeah, is it? Yeah, I think he can hold the ball up a bit. So they've got some decent players. Wait and see if Wilding's back. It'd be lovely to see him back at the Mazuma. However, in the wrong kit. But yeah, so I think good to get back at home as well, because it'll have been such a long time since a home game. I think it's the end. It'll be a pretty much been exactly a month, won't it, since the last home game. So
yeah.
As lovely as it is having all these international breaks, it'll be good to get back to Mazuma. And I think as well, if we've got a game in between that, I'm sure there's no point in mentioning. It's just there's a little game that nobody seems to care about against Wrexham, isn't it? There's some promoted side from the National League.
No, there'll be no major interest in that.
No, yeah, nonsense. Yeah, no, I don't know why anybody would want to go to that one.
No. I'm not going to mention that, because the simple fact is that we'll talk about that plenty enough in the future. But I like you alluding to the fact there may have been a couple of incidents at the Wembley game, and you're talking about our mentally stable and calm keeper managing to punch their centre forward's head off without conceding a penalty. And then Agent Ellison getting in the way of Josh Labadie when he should have tapped it in. Heartbreaking. Gutted. I think they're the two you're alluding to, aren't they?
Yeah, definitely not the penalty either. But yeah, I've forgotten about the Labadie miss. That was quite something. Literally within I think he was inside the 6-yard box. And yeah,
he was, but Kev got in the way.
There is probably a fair argument that he was unsighted by a certain Kevin Ellison and diving in for his redemptive goal. But,
yes.
You know, I think throughout the season, you know, we finished high. We have more points. I think we can look at some of the underlying numbers. We came out better. So, you know, one of those where, yeah, a couple of things went in our favour on the day. Not the penalty or anything like that. But yeah, and you look at the seasons as a whole. I think we deserve to go up. Hopefully, they don't hold it too much against us when we play them at the end of this month.
Fingers crossed. Right, we'll come to our two guests now. And Matt, you've been you were at Wembley that day, obviously, weren't you? So you've been sort of volunteering at the club and then completing your degree and doing loads of work at the club. As I'm sure people appreciate what you did during those times. Then obviously, correct me if I'm wrong, but we managed to sort out something between the club and the community where you were doing exactly the same, you know, for both parties, etc. And I noticed you mentioned, obviously, at Blackpool, Harry Lyons and Matt Rushton, who are obviously dead to us now because they don't, you know, and I know they won't mind me saying that, but obviously we had Ryan Daly, and then we've had Harry, and then obviously Dale came in with his big size 12s and set his stamp on it. He's gone off to pastures new. And it seemed like the ideal time, and you seem to fit the bill. So, because of all your work in the background, you've paid your penance, haven't you? And you were in the right place at the right time. So, congratulations and welcome. And how do you think it's gone so far?
Thank you very much. I can't emphasize just how much of an honor it is. Like you say,
be on the podcast. Thanks very much. Yeah, that's
of course. My first game actually, because the way it started out was I was in the first year at university, and we was kind of advised to just practice writing, practice interviewing techniques, and it was just as Morecambe drew Chelsea away in the FA Cup, obviously behind closed doors, so no spectators could go down. And I wanted to interview somebody from the club about kind of the positivity and excitement of drawing Chelsea in the cup, but also how different it will be and how fans will miss out on such an unbelievable experience. So I got in touch with Charlie Appleyard on Twitter, and he very kindly obliged to my interview request. So we had a natter, wrote an interview out on my blog, posted it, and then thought nothing else of it. And then about a week later, I got a Twitter DM from him with his phone number, and he said, "Can you ring me as soon as possible?" And I thought, oh no, I've cheesed off the director of a football club. My career's over before it's even begun, sort of thing. But no, he was very complimentary. He liked what I wrote and just asked if I fancied coming in and helping out Matt Rushton, just with some articles during the week. So it started off with me interviewing first team players on the phone, and then sending over a bit of a write-up that would go during the week, kind of building up to games. And then my first game was the Salford game, where we won 2-1 after being down in the 91st, 92nd minute, I think it was. So from then on, literally, I know it's mega cliche, but from that moment, it was very much caught the Morecambe bug. And then it just grew from there. My first real hands-on experience of working in the media team was at Wembley. So I couldn't have asked for a better day in that respect. That was just still one of the highlights of my career so far. It was an unbelievable experience. And then Matt Rushton left that summer. Ryan Daly came in. So I started as a kind of part-time media assistant. That continued throughout my second year. And then as I was going into third year, I started as the club's media and content coordinator alongside my studies while I was finishing off. And then, graduated in the summer. The club, very kindly came to me after graduation and came with this offer of becoming full-time with the media team, also alongside doing some work for the community, like you alluded to. And then, just pretty much get settled in that role. And then, Dale comes to me and says that he's off. So in 2.5 years, I've seen off 4 media managers, which is unbelievable. I'm starting to think I'm the problem, to be completely honest with you. But no, it's
whatever you're putting in the tea to get rid of him, he's working.
I'll just wait for Jack to do that to me now. But no, it's been an unbelievable ride. To be able to do what I've done for such an incredible football club is honestly, I feel like. Do you remember when Sam Allardyce got the England job and there was that video of him just laughing because of how honoured he was and how pleased he was? That's how I feel, but obviously I'm aiming for a bit of a better outcome, of course. But
I'm going to say, don't order a pint of wine and then start saying you can get access to everybody.
No, that honestly, like the honour and the pride that I feel to be in this position for Morecambe Football Club is just, it's difficult to put into words.
Well, it's funny you mentioned, because if the first game was that Salford game on that Tuesday night, which was a dreadful evening, and
that's a hell of an introduction to Freez in that game, isn't it?
Was it ever? Was it bloody ever? God almighty! People still come up to me now and say, "Do you know something? I've still got your commentary on that," and which is lovely. But it's because I had an absolute bloody. I had a mindless rant at the Salford player who kicked the ball out of play and then kicked it over the stand to waste time in like the 91st minute. And the ref did nothing. And I had a right rant. So when we equalised, me and Glenn were going absolutely ape. And then obviously, when we finally and what cracked me up about that was, obviously, it was a deflected shot that Aaron Wilding just sort of like stuck his foot out on and then waved everybody over to the corner to celebrate. Well, me, honestly, God, I have no idea what my commentary sounds like after that, because I was just laughing my head off. And then we sat down, and as you know, they disallowed a perfectly good Salford goal for something that I still don't know. But the linesman put his flag up, and anybody know what he disallowed it for?
It was a brutal assault on Carl Leathering. It was horrible. I think you need to watch it back. I know sometimes it's hard to listen to your own commentary back, but I think you need to watch it back. It's disgusting, and I think he's.
Oh, was it where somebody breathed on him?
Yeah, I think somebody might have punched him in the face.
So anyway, Matt, so I can see why you caught the bug if that was your first game, because that was an absolutely incredible evening. And it would have been so much better with the fans there, and it was a bloody shame they weren't. But as you said, you must be doing something right, because everybody else keeps disappearing off to pastures new. So I would imagine where you've come from and how you've actually ended up where you are, you'll be pretty settled and looking forward to actually, hang on, I could do with some stability here and establishing myself.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, I think it's fair to say as well that I wouldn't be where I am if it wasn't for, you know, each individual input from the previous head of media and communications. They've all in their own way shaped me to be where I am and who I am. You know, I came into this industry quite late, in the sense that I was 25 when I went back to university. And never in my wildest dreams could I, you know, I think it was 2020, September 2020. So, you know, you look at that lockdown period and in the back of my mind, if someone would have said to me, you know, in a year's time, 2 years' time, you'll be working at Morecambe Football Club, it's one of those where I probably would have just laughed at you. But you know, it's been a really exciting journey, something that occasionally, even now, I still pinch myself, you know, waking up in the morning and driving to work and thinking, yeah, just another day working at the professional football club, which is just still ridiculous to say, but I couldn't be happy. I really couldn't. And like you say, Freeze, to be able to kind of grow as a person, but as a professional within Morecambe Football Club as well, rather than kind of going off to a load of different clubs and learning different things here and there, to be able to do all of that with one football club is, yeah, it's the dream.
And looking at it, obviously you've become a family man and also got married. So all of a sudden there's been some massive life changes, which is given that you came to it, as you say, at 25. It's been a really roller coaster 3 years, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has. We actually get married next November. I'm just wondering if my fiance has kind of told you to say that we're married, just to try. I'll have to have a word with you about that. But no, it has. I mean, university itself was the best decision that I've ever made. And then it was actually, you talk about the Newport game in the cup. It was the day before actually that we found out that we're having a baby. So I mean, I was nervous going into that Newport game anyway, and then I found that out, and I think I was on the press deck during the game, just almost like shaking, thinking, right, there's so many emotions, I'm struggling to control it. But no, yeah, we had my daughter in June last year, which is, again, we talk about, you know, big moments in lives and what shapes you as a person. That in itself has just been the most incredible experience, you know. I remember we actually brought her to the Carlisle friendly last season at 0-0. So naturally, she slept all the way through it. I'm not blaming on. I think
I did as well, actually.
Yeah. So no, it has been a really, really good, exciting, you know, past 3 and a bit years, and I just hope that when I look ahead to whatever's next in terms of where we take the media team and where we are in 3 or 4 years, I just really hope that we can continue that, you know, that growth and that excitement and just really continue on such a positive journey.
Well, before I come to Jack, I'll take this opportunity to say good luck. Obviously, it's great that you've come on here, because every single member of the media team, we've had Harry on, we've had Dale on, we've had Ryan on when they started. Mainly because we like to keep you sweet, because you're the people who get us the guests to come on this, and obviously we're only trust members, so we're always slightly left of centre. But as James knows, we're always supportive of the club. So we're hoping we can keep that, keep you sweet and keep that relationship where I can send you a text on a Monday or a Tuesday saying, who do you fancy slinging our way? But anyway, we'll move on. Jack, yours has been a slightly different story, if you want to enlighten us a bit.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think me and Matt were first together at a game. Well, me and Matt were both together at the Wembley game, apart from I was in the stand, very sunburned.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Because it would have been, what, about 48 degrees that day? All going straight onto the Morecambe end.
Absolutely
roasted. At least.
Yeah, God, it was very, very warm. I had the red of the top blended in. Looked like I had long sleeves on the whole game. But that was the May of my last year at university. So I was up at the Glasgow School of Art, studying up there. Then I graduated in the June, and then basically came to the club when I found out that Matt Rushton was leaving, because, well, so probably when I was in the year 10 to year 11 transition summer, many, many years ago, I came to a few pre-season matches and took a few photos, like under the guidance of Matt Rushton, and he lent me a few lenses, and that was in my sort of first initiation in taking any football photography. And I got in contact with the club and said, I'm in that sort of period after I've just graduated. I've got quite a lot of free time. If you need any help during the pre-season while there's a bit of content to be made, let me know. And Ben Sadler got back to me and said, oh, here's the number of Matt. He's one of our media guys. Get in touch with him and come down to a training session when they were training up at the university. So I got in touch with Matt, went down, took a few photos, and then I got a call from Ryan, and that's when he had just come in the job. And he said, are you free on the 7th of August or whatever it was? Can you get to Ipswich? And I was like, yeah, that sounds good to me. Went down to Ipswich, took some photos of a very, very nice 2-2 draw. I was sort of still learning a bit of the craft of how I was going to send off photos during the game and everything. And I think before I could even get my laptop set up, I was just got the laptop set up properly, and then Cole's running towards me with his arms out, which became a bit of a sort of thing I got used to over the next 2 seasons. The classic Cole Stockton celebration. So I started working as the photographer then. So I volunteered for a bit, and then moved on to a sort of freelance basis, working with Ryan and Matt and sort of traveling with them to away games and working the home games. And yeah, basically I'm in my 3rd season now of doing that. And about a month ago, or maybe a month ago or something, Matt gave me a call and said, there's going to be a bit of a reshuffle in the media team. Would you basically be interested at all if we were to come at you at something with making your role a bit more full-time and moving it into a sort of media and comms role within the media team? Is that something you'd be interested in? And I said, yeah, absolutely. It's something I'm very passionate about. Absolutely love the club, absolutely love what I do as the photographer. And then ended up coming in to have an interview with him and Ben, had a chat, spoke about my vision in terms of content for the club and what I would want to make if I had the opportunity to be in a role like that. And I think it's quite aligned with Matt's because we've worked together for 3 seasons. I mean, we sort of know what we like and we know what content we like. And that then became a bit obvious to me that that's what I would want to do. And then Matt got back to me and offered me the role. And then I started last week full time. So yeah, it's been good.
And so ultimately, you are going to find out what Matt's been putting in the tea of the other media men so that you can start putting it in his.
I've been sending out a few feelers around the office to find what sort of where he keeps his tea bags.
So somebody will know where he keeps his tea bags. I like that. Yeah, that's a good shout. Well, look, I think this what tells us that the club's in the right direction, James, is that we seem to be very good in getting people in who are committed and then finding the role for them. And it's almost like fitting the square peg in the square hole and the round peg in the round hole. So somebody somewhere's, probably Ben Sadler's, doing a really decent job here because we're getting the right people in the right positions and they've all got experience before they actually start, which is great, James.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think, along the way, there's been 1 or 2 difficult decisions. There's been 1 or 2 people who have realised that actually they don't want to move things forwards, and they've either decided to leave or that decision's been made. But the thing that is in common between everybody who's developed and progressed in the last few years is they want the best for the club, they want the best for themselves, and they want to progress, and that's hugely important in any team or organisation. Like I'm slightly emotional listening to like Jack and Matt because the 2 such good examples of people developing within the club. And yeah, all right, Carlos Mendes Gomez and Adam Mayer will always grab the headlines, but the amount of people who've grown and developed at Morecambe Football Club since long before my time, but also in the last few years, behind the scenes as well, is a wonderful thing. It's a really, really positive and wonderful thing. And there's others who won't necessarily be on this podcast. You look at how Jodie's progressed over the course of the last few years.
Yeah, fantastic.
How she's grown out into being like just a fantastic and effective person in her role. So yeah, it's wonderful to hear Jack and Matt talk about it. And we want people to develop on the pitch. We want people to develop behind the scenes as much as possible. And as long as we can be an organisation that rewards people for wanting the best for themselves in the club and wanting to progress, then we're in a good spot. It's a really good thing.
Well, I don't think there's any. If I was to come to you, Matt, and said, if the Burnley approached you it's a bit like Rob the groundsman. You know, it was always going to be that the pitch looks never looked better, so Rob's going to get another job somewhere, and it's going to be at a better, higher club. It's the same with you. If Burnley came a calling, you must be thinking, well, yeah, that's my next step, surely.
I mean, obviously, you're always thinking ahead and looking at what your future could be. And I like that you've used Rob there as an example, because I think he deserves a ridiculous amount of credit for what he's done since arriving.
Yeah, I agree. And we were singing his praises, as you heard on the podcast 2 weeks ago, because he's done an absolutely amazing job, and it's a similar sort of thing that you and other people are doing. So you know, you're young enough that you can use this as a really, really good base. Do a fantastic job here, but would it be of interest to you, say, moving? Like Rob's moving, you know, further afield, or would it just be I'd like to stay in the Northwest, or Burnley's the dream job?
Well, first of all, I like that you're saying that I'm still young enough, because when I started at uni, my nickname on the course was Grandad, just because I was significantly older than everybody else. And when I speak to, you know, my course mates now, they still call me Grandad. So yeah, being kind of reminded that I'm still relatively young is always nice to hear. But no, you're
younger than Sluey and Jan and Stuart Moore.
I won't call them Grandad anytime soon. But no, I think for me, it's just, obviously, people ask me that all the time, being a Burnley fan, living in Burnley. You know, if that opportunity ever came around, then would you consider it? And of course you consider it. But at the same time, I'm not naive enough to think right now that just because I'd like to think that I'm doing a relatively good job at Morecambe, that's not to say that I've got to let my guard down because these things are naturally going to come my way. I think for me, it's about maintaining, you know, the level of performance for our media team, and just focusing solely on that. You know, not tunnel vision, of course, because you've always got to be aware of what's around you and in your surroundings. But it's just, you know, channeling all the energy and effort and work rate into the job that we're doing at Morecambe, and then whatever happens down the line in, you know, 2, 3, 4 years or whatever, then okay, we'll address that then. But for now, you know, everything to me is Morecambe Football Club, and Morecambe Football Club is everything.
I suppose the pair of you are in a situation where if you make changes and tweaks to the way that the media is portrayed in both your films and your photographs and the content that comes out of like the magazine, etc., then obviously it's very easy to be judged on that, isn't it? Because you've got quite a few mediums that you actually cross, don't you?
Yeah, and I think, you know, I was saying it the other day, me coming in as head of media and communications, I think the worst thing that I could possibly do is come in straight away and try to implement wholesale changes, because that would just be foolish. I think what we've built over the past 2.5, 3 years is, you know, really strong foundations to get to where we are now. I think maybe a couple of months down the line, that's where you really take stock and think, right, okay, this is where we're at. We're at a really good level. Let's start thinking about exploring other possibilities, other avenues, or just little tweaks, like you say, Freeze. But certainly not right now, because I think that would be almost disrespectful to the work that, you know, people in the past have done, like Dale more recently, but long term Harry and Ryan. So and Matt Rushton, of course. So I think the you know, the room and the scope for growing it and taking it in other directions is there, certainly. But once we've taken stock, because like I say, coming in now and starting to throw loads of different ideas at everyone, it would almost lose the identity that we've built.
Yeah, I suppose it's fairly natural. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it'd be fairly natural to sort of take stock sort of near the end of the season and try and implement changes over the summer, because that would be the logical time to try new stuff, I suppose, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I mean, naturally, that's the time where you do get a bit more time. But that's not to say that, you know, looking ahead over the next month or two, you know, if there's always going to be the opportunity of small victories in any walk of life, isn't there? So if there's just little things that we can tweak here and there that have a positive effect on our digital media output, then we'll absolutely do it. But like you say, when you do have a bit more time to sit down and really kind of put together a bit of a plan on how you're going to move forward, I think summertime is probably your best bet.
Yeah. So Jack, what's your ideal job? Is it actually replacing Matt after you've killed him, or have you got a preferred team that you think, oh yeah, they'd do for me, or is it just Morecambe?
Well, the thing is, and I think about this a lot. I mean, I grew up as a Morecambe fan, so I'm a Morecambe fan at heart, and doing the work I do, I absolutely love it. And then sometimes, and this, I don't want to come across sounding very privileged here, but one thing you do in terms of working in a role in the media team at Morecambe is you sacrifice being a Morecambe fan on a match day, in the sense that when we go and we play Sutton away and we score a last minute winner, I don't watch the ball hit the back of the net. I watch Dolcini through the viewfinder. I track him. I get the celebration shots, and you're really working hard there because you know that's the important bit, and you can hear everything behind you. And all I want to do is throw that camera off gently onto the floor because it's expensive, and run straight in and join the celebrations, and hop the barrier and get into the away end, and then go straight to the pub afterwards. And you sort of sacrifice that to work in the role that you do so you can get the content, but what you get in return is this incredibly rewarding work environment of a club like Morecambe, where you're really supported by the people, like James was saying about people stay at Morecambe for a long time and progress through the ranks because it's a great place to work. And I absolutely love what I do because I would any day choose sacrificing that part of being a fan to be able to do the job I do as a fan. And one of the things that drives me to make the content I do and to improve the content output of the club is because I still get to look at it and I still get to see how that reflects on the club and how that reflects on the players and how that reflects on everything about Morecambe FC, which is what I really love. So I'm very happy in the job and I feel so incredibly grateful to do the role I do now, where I get to work full time and that's my job. I get to go into the office. I get to park in the car park at the Mazooma and walk through the reception doors, and that's my job, to go in and create content for the club that I grew up watching. So I mean, I'm very happy in the role that I'm in right now. If I were to be like Matt and pick the dream team to work for, it really is Morecambe, in the sense that if I wasn't working here, I'd be working somewhere else, checking the scores and looking at the media output of Morecambe. So,
well, I sincerely hope the novelty never wears off, because I've been fortunate enough in my career that the job I did, I absolutely loved, and I also got to do, as you know, 12 years of commentary for iFollow, and that never felt like a job. But I was the same as the pair of you in the fact that when we scored, I had to concentrate on what had happened, who'd scored, look and tell people what had happened. And the only time I didn't was the Salford game, which is why it's always worth mentioning.
I was thinking actually earlier, the only Morecambe goal since I've started working that I've actually got to watch in its entirety was Michael Mellon's when we scored. What was it, about 3 seconds after the second half started against Wimbledon? Because I was setting up the goal cam, and if you watch the video, you see me walking from the goal back to my camera, and I'm sort of walking, and as he breaks through and beats the man, I walk a little bit quicker, and then as the ball rolls into the net, you see me jogging like, oh no, I've missed it, haven't I? So I had to get the celebrations. I did have to profusely apologise to Matt. I said it wasn't my fault. You can't be scoring that quickly.
Do you have a word with Michael Mellon and Slimmy for moving the ball that quickly up the pitch here, fellas? I'll give me a chance here.
I'll tell you what, there would have been a great photograph there as well, because he managed to get it through two people's sliding legs, and I still don't know how he threaded it through them to this day. But anyway, there you go. Well, thanks, guys. I'll come to James now for anything happening exciting in the boardroom besides extra pies.
I kind of want to just let things finish with Jack, because that was a bit of a drop the mic speech there. That was exactly what you want to hear from anybody at Morecambe Football Club, player or staff or director. I did a couple of small things. Firstly, we sold 930 for Wrexham, so we're looking like we're going to take a very, very nice and healthy number there, which is brilliant.
Have we got 1100 and summer? Is that right?
Something like that. There's a couple of hundred left, but that is fantastic. So if you haven't got your ticket yet for Wrexham, get it.
I think I was just as an aside, I was talking to Nikki in the office, and she was saying there's quite a lot of people's wives keen on going.
Funnily enough, my wife was keen on going, and that's why I'm not going, because I'm like, no, because you go to football for football, not because you might be late lively. Anyway, put that to one side. So yeah, sold 930 for Wrexham, good tick. And then I think just a couple of quick background things, like, no matter what's going on in the background, we're in the playoffs. We've got a game in hand over all but one team above us. We're hitting really good attendance numbers. We're getting a better fan experience than ever before. for winning awards in the Northwest Football Awards, whether it be on the pitch or off the pitch, Adam Mayer or best fan engagement process. So generally speaking, things are in really health at Morecambe Football Club, and it's really, really, really a wonderful thing to be part of. But really, it's got to be about just what Jack and Matt and Body and what their development and what their progression and what their effort and their care and their desire to do better means for the football club. The more people you've got in any organisation, any building that think like these two, the better you are. Simple as that.
Well, that's why we got them on. See what makes them tick. And just as an aside, just to show how completely and utterly unprofessional we were last week, both myself and I write a list of what I'm going to talk about, and Adam Mayer winning the Northwest Young Players Award was on it, and Charlie writes the same list, and he was on his, and we still didn't bloody mention it, Joel.
I know. What can you do? What can you do? Yeah, I mean, I can't really say anything because I hadn't even written it on the list. So you were one step ahead of me.
Yeah, I know, but I just bleeding ignored it, and I felt so guilty because I thought, well, I know Adam's dad listens, so I'm like, I'm really sorry, Adam's dad. But it's fantastic for the club. Really nice interview with Wayners. I didn't know Wayners was the next Michael Parkinson. Actually, it was pretty good with Wayners. We might have to get him and Stewie on the podcast here because Wayners was very good. But we'll finish with the usual thing from the trust, if that's all right, Joel.
Yeah, as I'm sure many of you are aware of, it's that time of year where we've got the toy appeal on, which is historically been really, really well received. We've got various things kind of going online and available for people to donate through. At the moment, we've got a GoFundMe page. There's an Amazon wish list that people can get gifts through. There's a book donation link as well we've got set up this year. So there's a variety of different ways that we've kind of got set up to enable people to donate. There's going to be the table at a game that is going to be at the Newport game on the Tuesday. That's going to be before that. There'll be a table outside the ground before that game. We were seeing if we could arrange anything for the Stockport game, but just with how busy it's likely to be for the Stockport game, it might be a bit tricky. We might try and set something up inside, but we can't really guarantee anything. So we're doing something for the Newport game. It's a Tuesday, but unfortunately we're too much of a big club, and our games on Saturdays keep getting cancelled. Like the Crew on this Saturday. Unfortunately, we're just too big as a club. But yeah, aside from that, just things ticking over nicely. Again, shout out to some of the events that the club are putting on. We'll be looking to put on some of our own events over the course of the next few months. And yeah, again, really big thank you. I think we're on a record membership now as well. So I think James has alluded to some kind of the feel good stuff around the club. We've got Matt and Jack on. We're kind of testament to that, and the trust stuff is going well as well. So yeah, just all round quite good at the moment, I'd say.
Well, yeah, I alluded to that in my intro, saying we've had some trials and tribulations on the field, but off field we seem to be going okay. So there you go.
Quite good on the field now, to be fair.
Well, yeah, exactly. So this has been ShrimpNet number 14. Thanks to our guests, Matt and Jack. Good luck in your roles. I'm sure from what you've said, you're going to be a fantastic success. And obviously, keep chucking us the odd player. Well, not an odd player. I don't mind. Yeah, odd players are quite good, actually, But Faz is great because you can't shut him up. So, but we've had him already, but whatever. But thank you to you two. Thank you to James, as always. A quick shout out. The Shrimps fans panel will be out tomorrow as we speak. This goes out on Thursday. The Shrimps fan panel will be out as well. That's a good little 15 minutes to listen to get a more fans perspective. But that's it. That's been ShrimpNet number 14. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. We might be back next week. We were toying with the idea of having a break because we have nothing to talk about. But Charlie's trying to fix us up with a special guest. If that happens, we will be back. If it doesn't, we might have a week's break. But enjoy England versus Malta.